In October 1962, the world stood on the brink of nuclear war. The Cuban Missile Crisis, a 13-day standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union, would become one of the most perilous moments in human history. Our story begins in Cuba, under the leadership of Fidel Castro, a charismatic revolutionary who had successfully overthrown the Batista regime. Castro's socialist policies and close alliance with the Soviet Union raised concerns in the United States. In Washington, President John F. Kennedy was determined to prevent the spread of communism in the Western Hemisphere. The discovery of Soviet nuclear missiles on Cuban soil would put his leadership to the ultimate test. American surveillance planes revealed the presence of missile launch sites in Cuba, capable of reaching major U.S. cities within minutes. The world held its breath, and the Cold War escalated to its most dangerous point. Behind closed doors, President Kennedy and his advisors weighed their options. A full-scale invasion of Cuba was considered, but it risked provoking a devastating nuclear response from the Soviet Union. Kennedy turned to the United Nations, presenting evidence of the Soviet missiles in Cuba. The world watched as tensions reached a boiling point. The clock was ticking, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. In a bold move, President Kennedy ordered a naval blockade around Cuba, preventing the Soviet Union from delivering any more missiles. The world held its breath, uncertain of what the next move would be. Soviet ships, carrying more missiles, approached the blockade. The world teetered on the edge of catastrophe as the superpowers stood face to face. Back-channel communications between Kennedy and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev offered a glimmer of hope. Negotiations were underway, but tensions remained high, with the fate of millions hanging in the balance. After 13 tense days, a deal was struck. The United States agreed to remove its missiles from Turkey, and the Soviet Union pledged to dismantle their missile sites in Cuba. Nuclear war had been averted, but the world was forever changed. The resolution of the Cuban Missile Crisis brought a collective sigh of relief. The superpowers had come close to the edge, but diplomacy had prevailed, and the world had narrowly avoided a nuclear catastrophe. The Cuban Missile Crisis served as a stark reminder of the dangers of nuclear weapons and the fragility of peace. The event led to increased efforts in arms control and a thawing of tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union. The legacy of the Cuban Missile Crisis still echoes through history, reminding us of the importance of diplomacy, restraint, and the urgent need for a world free from the threat of nuclear destruction.